Good afternoon, everyone here in the room and online, and welcome back to the UNEP Pavilion, where we are celebrating Forest and Land Use Day. So today is quite a busy day. In the morning, we've heard about financial gaps and opportunities for nature-based solutions. Moving on to the toolbox of solutions to halt deforestation and forest degradations, like monitoring tools, safeguards, carbon markets, and IPLC local participation. And then we've heard of some very, very successful and innovative examples to restore ecosystems worldwide and what we need to keep this lasting. And now, finally, in this panel, we would look at the full scale of climate action in this session entitled Climate Action Showcase, Beyond Carbon, Realizing the Untapped Potential of Forests to Combat Climate Change, moderated by Ms. Mireille Atala, the Head of Nature for Climate at UNEP. Mireille, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Katrina, and it's a great pleasure for me to be moderating this event, and an even greater pleasure to see Ms. Maria Elena Semedo, Deputy DG of FAO, arriving to this event. Today we are hosting this in the UNEP Pavilion on behalf of 18 phenomenal partners that are the partners of the Collaborative Partnership on Forests. It's a great honor and a great pleasure to do that. I would like to, the objective of the event, if for those of you who were in New York, we had collectively agreed to a declaration where, as a voluntary partnership, we said what we would be doing and how we would be supporting the goals for forests. So today, it gives me a great pleasure, with no longer delays, to invite Ms. Maria Elena Semedo of FAO, chairing the CPF, to give us her opening remarks.
Thank you, and good afternoon to all. Sorry to arrive late, but you know we have so many competing events that you need to run from one to another. But it's really a great pleasure for me to welcome you all as chair of CPF to this event, where forests take center stage as leading climate solutions for more sustainable, inclusive, and food-secure future for all. When we have been in COPs, when we mention to forestry, usually we look at forests at carbon sink, but forests can offer much more than that. And forests do much more for climate action. They are part of a bioeconomy that provides renewable materials in substitution of carbon-intensive material as a green jobs and employment opportunities. They have also a social role. Forest is home for the majority of terrestrial biodiversity and play a critical role in adaptation, in building resilience to agriculture system and people's food security, well-being, and livelihoods. And since we started this COP, we are talking about food system, transformation of agri-food system, and forests have an important role to play because, you know, in FAO we had a discussion of food system, and we call it agri-food system. Sometimes they don't understand, but we call it agri-food system exactly to bring forest and forest products to the definition of agri-food systems. And forests also cool the planet and regulate rainfall. All these functions benefit directly those that manage forests and further incentivize their production, sustainable management, and restoration. But despite the mitigation and adaptation potential of forests and their importance for biodiversity, the share of climate finance channeled to forests remain very small, less than 4% of total between 2009 and 2019. And it has been also a conversation here, how we can have the adequate finance to transform agri-food system and to bring to all the sectors in being part of agri-food system. Not only they are insufficient, but finance to agri-food system is declining. And this is a challenge we are facing. Today's event, dear friends, is to champion forests as our ally for climate action, both mitigation and adaptation, our ally for the protection of nature, and our ally for sustainable and food-secure future. Recognizing the critical role of forests, the Collaborative Partnership on Forests, Joint Call to Action and Forests towards 2030, as it has been said, announced in New York during the summit in September, recalls for urgent need of action to protect forests, people, and the planet. In our joint call to action, we, CPF members, announced that we will strengthen our effort in 4 important areas: implementation and action, data science and innovation, finance and forests, and communication and awareness raising. It's time to build the momentum around the joint call to move towards implementation and action. And I think this is what we are here to do, how to move towards action. We have lined up here eminent speakers that they will share with us their insights in how we can unlock the full value of forests with actions that benefit the global climate, biodiversity, and food security agenda. How to bring forests, linking those through 3 agenda: climate, biodiversity, and food security. Without forests, limiting global warming to the agreed 1.5, 2 degrees Celsius will be out of reach. We are part of the solution. Forests are part of the solution. But together, we can take action to ensure forests are climate champions for a sustainable and food-secure future to all. Thank you, and looking forward to listen to your insights and recommendations. Thank you all.
Thank you so very much for framing our side event better than anyone could have. It's a great pleasure now to call, on behalf of the private sector, Ms. Anna Uller, from Executive Director of Embrapa. Please, over to you.
Good afternoon, distinguished audience and gentlemen. First of all, it's a big honor to be here. I would like to thank FAO for the invitation, and especially Mr. Maria Helena Semedo and Amy Ducelli. That's a great friend from a couple decades ago in the Amazon when we were PhD students. Thank you, Amy. And then also welcomed me in the FAO last November as a fellow there. My words will address a little bit my personal experience working in the Amazon in the last 20 years with communities, supporting public policies and practical initiatives. The unlocking potential for forest products is really huge. There are more than 200 species in the Amazon that are traditionally used and traded since before the Europeans arrived in the Amazon and in Brazil. It's important to say that nowadays small farmers, traditional people, indigenous people manage more than 200 million hectares of the best preserved forest in the Amazon region. Embrapa, that I represent, it's a public research agriculture corporation, and works in the region in the last 50 years. We have 90 different research units and over 300 PhD researchers in there. We have been studying and providing technology solutions to at least 30 different species, related to 30 different species and value chains, such as manioc, açaí, cupuaçu, Brazil nut, fisheries, forest, oil species, and so on. One of our main bottlenecks are really structuring value chains from the forest to the final markets. Also, some bottlenecks are high production costs due to small scale and expensive logistics, the low price paid to local producers for raw material, need of increased processing plants or biofactories locally, training, and so on. I would say that carbon markets are one important goal, but they are still a very distant reality for local people in the region. What local people really want are markets that pay better their products considering their value associated, yes, to environmental services and cultural services, investment in education, and especially also in infrastructure. So carbon markets are not a short-term solution for promoting bioeconomy and sustainable development in the tropics. The role of carbon credit governance should also be improved with more participatory approaches and direct payments to local communities. So finally, I would just stress that value changes of social biodiversity products should be prioritized, in special with more attention and funds and incentives to research, to small business support, and new models of public and private markets. Thank you.
Thank you very. They are mine. Thank you very much, Anna. Thank you very much, Maria Elena. I think you have set the stage and given us a lot of food for thought for our panelists. We have unfortunately lost 3 women on our panel today. Dr. Susan Gardner won't be able to join us. She's at the other end of the COP venue. Dr. Eliane will not be able to join us either. She is very, very ably represented by Christophe. And Sham will also not be able to join us today, and she's very ably represented by Ma. So today we have representatives of 3 CPF members, ITTO, the International Timber Trade Organization, C4 that does a lot of work on research, and the GEF represented by Pascal that has been financing quite a bit forests across different biomes and different types of ecosystems. Maria Elena mentioned in her opening remark the call to action that was launched and endorsed in New York earlier on. So I would really like to hear from all 3 of you, from your individual angle and entry points in this partnership. What are concrete pathways for CPF members, or for the GEFs, for example, specifically as a CPF member, to realize the full value of forests beyond carbon along the 4 focal areas that Maria Elena mentioned of our call to action? And if you can let us know what are the next steps that your organization plans on doing to implement the CPF call to action. And I will start with Pascal.
Okay, thank you. I say it all in one intervention, the 2 questions?
As you wish, we can do 2 rounds. Let's do 2 rounds.
Okay, as you wish. Okay.
Yes.
Now to respond to the first one. First, the GEF, by nature, goes beyond carbon. And for 2 reasons. It's a financial mechanism of the Rio Convention, so it provides co-benefits in terms of climate through other focal areas, biodiversity, land degradation. And the other one is the carbon credit is not what we can support because it's a question of compensation. And we need to provide benefits. So we cannot finance systems that provide carbon credits because it's neutral. It's a zero-sum game. So by essence, I think GEF activities goes beyond carbon, no? Mm-hmm. Despite having this tremendous focal area on climate change and mandate on climate change. No? So I think the question is very relevant for the GEF. Having said that, okay, so we provide funding beyond carbon, but we know that it's very far from what is needed. It's just very, very small part. So what can we do strategically? First, we always speak about the gap, the financing gap. But to correct this situation, you have two approaches. Or you reduce the needs, or you increase the funds. So what is quite logical is to reduce the needs, no? And this is why our CEO is so keen on speaking about policy coherence. Let's try to make all the policy come together in one determined landscape and make sure that there are no contradicting policies, measures. You're not destroying here to rebuild there. I mean, this question of policy coherence is very important because it's like we would be filling a bucket with water, but this bucket has holes, so you keep on filling it, and you never finish to fill it. And when you stop filling it, it's empty again, and you have to begin again the process. So I think it's a general aspect, but I think this aspect is very important to highlight. It goes far beyond the carbon, but I think it's interesting. And then we have seen interesting, innovative development recently, and in the context, for instance, of the One Forest Summit in March, the President Macron asked the GEF to work on a study and mobilized a very high level of experts, and Ximin was one of them, I don't know if I remember correctly, the director of forest of FAO. And these experts come with an interesting study trying to assess the quality of the biodiversity positive carbon credits or nature certificates, kind of two different instruments, and trying to see how this could be used to go beyond the only carbon and integrated the social and biodiversity and water, all the benefits that you can capture in the credit. And this study comes with 10 recommendations. I will not tell them all here now because we don't have time, but it's quite interesting to see how we can try to build on this kind of initiatives to contribute to fill the gap after having, of course, removing the holes in the bucket. Huh? So this is one of the aspects, these innovative financing tools that are being developed, and I think it's important. Then you have this notion of developing indicators that are linked to the land areas, hectares, and not carbon, because this allows to capture more than carbon. No? You have carbon eventually, but you have many more than that. So developing KPIs with based on hectares, I think also it's something interesting to consider when we think on this. And then there are other initiatives, but all of them are not enough. No, there is no silver bullet. I will not say the KPIs on hectares. Wow, it's great, and you have it, and or the indicators I mentioned. No. So I think it's very important to try to elaborate a combination of different approaches to build a strategy to fill these financing gaps. And we see very interesting developments now regarding the what you call the project finance for permanence, which are focused on conservation and put together all these different aspects. It can come from a tax on the tourism combined with some eventually carbon credits, with also some other aspects, and all nature swap for
Net for nature
net for
swap.
the jobs. Thank you. So you can have an architecture of different approaches to all together that allows to fill the gap. And the GEF has funded this kind of approaches successfully in Brazil, in Colombia, in Peru, and also in Zimbabwe. I think I'm not sure in Africa, but and these are very interesting because it allows sustainability and enough finance in terms of conservation. But beyond conservation, we have also the country package that was coming from the Glasgow Declaration on Forest. And some country package was officially launched during this COP. This goes beyond conservation. It's more forestry widely considered. No? Mm-hmm. So you have this kind of approaches that allow us to put together in a intentionally and nationwide strategy to put together different sources of finance with different sources of actors and donors and to enable to fill the financing gap.
Pascal, I'm going to
And
have to
Florent-
come back to you for a second round. And
Yeah, finish.
give the floor now to C4, Dr. Christophe. One of the 4 pillars of the call to action is science and data. And that connects to the KPI point that Pascal was mentioning. Can you tell us a little bit more about what C4 is doing to support that pillar of the CPF?
Yes, thank you very much, and thanks for the invitation. Thanks to the organizers. And apologies from our CEO, Dr. Eliane Ubalijoro. She's right now speaking or waiting to speak in the plenary, so she couldn't be here, which maybe can be understood. So I'm happy to be here and replace her, maybe not completely, but in a way. So for us, I mean, what we see is that forests are very high on the political agenda, yet you don't see results in terms of keeping forests standing. We still see high deforestation rates everywhere, and part of this might be the fact that due to the fact that forests are on the political agenda for partly the wrong reasons. We can only expect forests are only land use forest and land use is responsible for 13-15% of the emissions. So you cannot expect it to be responsible for the whole package. Forests are there because you can grow a positive sink for carbon. That could be big, up to 25% of the emissions, but it will take time to build that. And if you have seen the land gap report that has been put together by partners of us in Sharm el Sheikh and actually has been updated 1 week before this COP, there is hardly enough land to fulfill all the pledges from countries for forest restoration, because simply the intentions are too big, and also it will come too late. It will take years and years to grow this forest, and it will come too late to have a measurable impact in 2030 or shortly thereafter. So these things are important to consider. And second, that same thing means that if forests are only important for 30% of the emissions, they're probably much more important for adaptation, for ecosystem services on which everything depends. And some have been saying forests are our best technology so far. Nature is our best technology, and we have to go back and respecting that. In terms of what we can do or what we are doing in terms of strengthening the 4 pillars of the call to action is actually, yes, you're right, we work on data and research, but we do this to support all these 4 pillars. We work on forest policies. We have been doing the longest study of REDD+, the global comparative study of REDD+, and Amy here in the room and others have been part of this and can tell us what a long undertaking that was and what an interesting undertaking, and also how much we were able to actually engage with countries on this, with all actors in the countries, with NGOs, with policymakers and so on, at the various level, national level, local level, municipal level, and so on. And so these kind of things we are doing, and it's sometimes very difficult to put that in terms of impact, because what is the impact of 15 years of research where some countries now are doing better policies? It's still not yet translating into forests saved, because that is still the funding has still not come. The results-based funding in many places has not yet come. So it's sometimes hard to put this into numbers. Second, we make all our data public, so they are publicly available, at least after the study is concluded. And so we urge our partners to also follow up on this. And in terms of improved finance, I would like to say our bucket doesn't have holes, so we're happy if somebody comes in filling it, because research requires money and working with partners requires money, and actually our research is not academic research. We work for academic inputs on the research, we work with partners in developing countries where the well-funded universities are, that have all the equipment, all the experts and so on. But our research is actually very oriented towards supporting country partners in their actions, because we cannot achieve the impact, they have to achieve the impact. We are just too small. It has to be done in the countries on the ground. And
Christoph, may
yeah.
I ask you to wrap up the
Yeah,
first
just
round?
one
So-
sentence. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And finally, the communications and awareness and capacity development is very important for us. You may know the Global Landscapes Forum that we are organizing for many years, and as a platform to exchange ideas, exchange knowledge, and we take that very seriously. I stop here.
Thank you very much. And while I think that we will all take that bucket analogy with us, ITTO is a very special partner of the CPF. You work more on the sustainable use, on the trading, on those aspects. Is that bucket empty or is it full?
First, you have very difficult question. What is legality or sustainability? First, I like to, convey the apology from the executive director. Sham Chakru should be here, but she is currently engaged in another event like the executive director. And I'm currently the heading of the Division of Forest Management, IT Secretariat. And I like convey the Sham Sakru, the 1 minute some message. She prepared a very short message, so she applauded once again. So she conveyed this message. We at ITT are very passionate about the effective implementation of sustainable traffic forest management as a vital pathway, as a climate resilient future. Protecting the conservation forest more effectively and managing production forest more responsibly are key. And timber is eco-friendly and vital for carbon neutral and circular bioeconomy. Generating sustainable revenue from forests ensure their preservation, safeguard them from competing land uses by making product forests sustainably, along with sustainable forest investment. We keep them safe and from other land uses. ITTO, established in 1986, is fully committed to collaborating closely with the members of the CPF. Our shared goal is to continue to advance the best practice of SFM for the full range of the benefit which forests offer in economy, society, and environment. That's the message. Just I'd like to add 1 minute, somehow the honor from our keynote speaker, Embrapa. ITTO also, we are working in Amazon and Congo Basin in the Mekong and the Hatoponia. Next week, I'll go to Belém, Brazil, to Embrapa. So your message, I think, is very clear. Our indigenous group, our farmers, smallholder, I think they are looking forward more the income generation. This is very much the kind of the essential. So how do we bring up the need? I think this is a tremendous challenge. All the CPF members, I think the CPF more the policy-oriented research, also Jeff also providing a lot of the activity. ITT also we are working together, all members. But how to, I think, to enhance, scale up some of the effort to bring up the economic or social, the resilience for the future. Thank you. I like to step here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So back to the bankers, back to the financiers. Let's say, Pascal, maybe you can give us a 2-minute overview of the future prospects of how the GEF can support those 4 pillars of the climate call to action.
Yes, thank you. I will be very quick because I know that the time is limited. Basically, we have been supported. We have been the most important conservation fund, I think, in the world, and we will continue to do so. We have this huge program that we are elaborating now, which is called Amazon, Congo, and Critical Forest Biome Program. 28 countries representing nearly 90% of the primary forest in the world, who, by the way, are the most carbon and biodiversity and indigenous people and many social aspects too. So through this program, which is composed by 5 sub-regional programs, each of these sub-programs includes an important project, regional project for the coordination. And this is a place where we can innovate, when we can try to put on board different stakeholders that are not necessarily in the region or in the topics, this is really, and they are very well funded. Depends on the region, but it's $10 million for the Amazon. It's 8 million, I think, for Mesoamerica. So this is a place, it's for coordination, it's for exchange knowledge and so on. But I think this is where exactly we can try to reach out the right stakeholders to improve the way we're financing the sustainability of our forest. So I think this is really what we have ahead in the GEF. And of course, we'll continue to work following up on what we have been doing on this kind of certificates and so on. And also what with the good examples that we have developed so far, including through programs, when I mentioned this project finance for permanence. We will continue to support this and try to scale up in other countries that are ready to do so. So more or less, it's what we plan to do with scaling and enriching the work that we have been doing, putting more aspects, elements in the system of what we are supporting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pascal. Over to Christopher. Same question. 2 minutes, forward-looking. How will C4 support the pillars of the call to action?
Yeah, in part through the things I have been mentioning, but also forward-looking, we're looking more into questions of carbon finance, biodiversity finance, and certification, trying to also engage more closely with the private sector in terms of what can we do with them and for them. We're also looking at digitalization, artificial intelligence, and how can we harness these technologies in a good way, because sometimes it seems that technologies are again available more in the developed part of the world than in the global south, and so we need to bridge that divide, and that's what we work for, and actually working against this imbalance in the levels and trying to harmonize these things.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Christopher. And over to Maong, ITTO.
Yes.
Forward-looking.
Yeah, moving forward, we'll work with the other CPM member, also partner. Particularly, ITTO not like a bank, not a research organization. So we are working closely. So ITTO is like the action-oriented organization. I have been the last 27 years in ITTO. Now I'll retire very soon. But this action-oriented on the ground, I think this is ITTO mandate, and particularly one of the priority at the moment, we like to promote legal and supply chain. Somehow the legality is a very, very typical challenge of many developing countries, particularly the producing country. So how to ensure the legal production of the timber and non-timber product. I believe such a certification mechanism will be also very useful to add the ecosystem service when you certify. Asking forest sector, we are somehow ITTO, one of the organization pioneer, criteria indicator to assess sustainability. So I think the ITTO will continue working with our member, particularly this legality, sustainability. In order to do that, I think the challenge, the dream, or the concentration, more how to promote the sustainable wood use. We are working very closely with the FAO, Sustainable Wood for Sustainable Future. So our Dr. Uzamin and Marina, and also FAO colleague, and also I saw that my colleague, one of the Bali, from Sustainable Bamboo. Yeah. So many colleagues here. So I think the legality, sustainability, our challenges. So ITTO will accelerate our partnership to promote it, particularly the also inclusion of the private sector. ITTO also very closely working with the major private sector. So we are really private sector and research also, the government also, JEP, particularly the banker, we like work together. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you very much to all the esteemed panelists and our two opening keynote addresses. I will not do any justice if I were to summarize that. However, some key elements, I think, policy coherence is very critical. Science that feeds into policy, into behavior change, into communication is absolutely fundamental. The sustainable dimension, the legality dimension, bioeconomy that is emerging as a major, major trend across tropical forest countries is also very fundamental. And as you have said, Maria Elena, bringing forests at the core of discussions on food security, on health, on other dimensions where people may think that has nothing to do with forests is actually quite critical. Now, this morning, UNEP launched the State of Finance for Nature report that goes exactly back to the example of the bucket. We've assessed how much funding is going for nature-based solutions to achieve the 3 Rio Conventions. The figure is 200 billion. And in general, I get a wow, like wow. Now, this year we've innovated because it's the 3rd iteration of the report. And we have assessed how much funding is actually directly negatively impacting nature. 7 trillion. Can I have a big wow? So indeed, we are in a situation where the bucket is being filled on one hand, but emptied, like not with holes, cut down on the other end, and really emptying. I really, really hope that CPF, as a collective, as a big partnership, powerful partnership, will help to change that. And with that, I would like to hand over to Ms. Juliette Biao, my sister and my friend, co-chair of the CPF and Director General of the UNFF. Juliette.
Thank you so much, DDGFAO, distinguished delegates, esteemed colleague from the CPF. Good afternoon. I think I will not really talk about the empty basket because you've done with it really in a proper manner. But from the strong remarks of, from the DDGFAO to the panelists, I heard same key message. Forests provide more than storing carbon. And it is our responsibility to bring to the attention of policymakers the whole ecosystem services that forests provide that are not visible to us and to the policymakers. It is also important to scale up for greater impact. While looking at scaling up, we will need to enrich what we are doing. And for that, all stakeholders may come together. Science in policy interface is critical. We need fact, and we need also policies. At the same time, when the countless benefits of services of forests are being called upon to serve a global sustainable development, the role of the collaborative partnership of forests and their support to the UN Forum on Forests has never been more important. Now more than ever, we need to take decisive action to support sustainable management of our forests so that forests can fulfill their full potential in supporting the well-being of people and restoring the health of the planet. We must leverage these opportunities to deliver the promise of a greener, inclusive, and sustainable future. In this regard, the CPF Joint Call to Action provides an additional avenue for the CPF to assist countries in overcoming the challenges that prevent the protection, restoration, and sustainable management of the world's forests. This is a momentum being built to address these critical challenges to tap into potential of forests. In March 2023, the UN Secretary General presented at all hands on deck climate action acceleration agenda to supercharge effort to cut emissions and mobilize support to keep the goal of 1.5 degree alive. In October 2023, leaders, experts, and scientists from the Amazon, Congo, and Southeast Asian forest basin countries met at the second summit of the three basins and emphasized the need for cooperation and knowledge sharing across these regions to protect these tropical forests. In August 2023, leaders from 8 Amazonian nations sent a strong signal to step up their effort by agreeing to create an alliance to protect the world's largest rainforest. Building on this momentum, we need innovative and holistic solutions that enable us to meet our immediate needs without sacrificing the need of future generations. The only way this will happen is if we break down existing operational silos and work together to develop cross-sectoral responses. Today's event was a step in that direction by bringing together CPF members to share their insight and identify areas for collaborative action. We will only achieve our shared vision for a more sustainable world in 2030 if we work together in the true spirit of partnership. I now would like to conclude by inviting all of you to the forthcoming session of the UN Forum on Forests. This forthcoming 90th session of the Forum will convene in May 2024 at the UN headquarters in New York. At this session, the Forum will undertake the midterm review of the effectiveness of the international arrangement on forests and will adopt the quadrennial program of work of the Forum for 2025-2028. As we stand at the halfway point of the implementation of the 2030 Agenda and the United Nations Strategic Framework for Forests 2030, the midterm review of the International Arrangement of Forests provide a unique opportunity to assess the effectiveness of the current arrangement to support the accelerated progress toward the achievement of the SDGs and the global forest goals of the United Strategic Plan for Forests by 2030. Ms. DDG, allow me to recognize the presence of my chair here, my boss, my first boss. The UNFF Secretariat stand ready to, under your leadership, to do this part to strengthen our effort to facilitate dialogues and mobilize action with all partners through the collaborative partnership for forests. I thank you for your attention.
Colleagues, esteemed audience, esteemed speakers, please join me in giving a humongous clap to the partnership, to our speakers, to all of our speakers. Thank you very, very much. This is the start of a long journey to implement the call to action. So looking forward to working with all of the partnership. And if I may, I would like to invite all representatives of the CPF to join us here for a family picture. Thank you.